Welcome back to the JumpifyLabs Podcast, the show for founders who want growth without the guesswork. Here we talk about systems driving predictable growth, and today's guest helps leadership teams solve a problem that most companies don't even realize until it's too late. They invest tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars into offsites that feel productive, but still don't manage to change anything when everyone gets home. Our guest designs offsite experiences for companies like American Express, Microsoft, Google, and today he's going to break down why most offsites fail and what actually makes them work. Jay Palace, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Jay. Thanks very much for having me. And yeah, I'm Jay Palace and I run group experiential learning. And I think it's great to talk about this area of business that doesn't get as much focus as I believe it should.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine. Jay, let's start things off. For somebody meeting you for the first time, how do you explain what you actually do without using the word team building?
That's a great question. The way I explain what we do is that we help senior executives maximize the effectiveness of their teams through offsites designed to get people into the mindset of introspective mindset, but also a learning mindset, and give them an opportunity to discuss the issues, the behaviors, the practices, both that support really good performance and those that get in the way. So we actually view offsites as something that are designed, and actually team performance in and of itself. You need a system for it rather than an offsite simply being 2 days at a really lovely hotel in California or Hawaii or wherever you might go, and that doesn't change anything when people are back in the office or back in their remote offices a week or a month after an offsite.
Yeah, and what makes your style of offsite, the experiential offsites, fundamentally different from the traditional leadership retreats, like you mentioned, where everyone's just locked up in a hotel for a weekend?
Well, I would have to say there's the sexy, what we're known for aspect that's different, and that's the experiential component. But then the approach is actually what's different. So I'll touch on both of those. First of all, the approach. We start by having a detailed conversation with the senior leader, the sponsor of this offsite, or if it's a leadership development program. What is the outcome that this person has for their group 3 months, 6 months, a year from now? What does our team, that future team, look like? And we get their assessment of what's the team look like now? Where are the gaps? That's, I would say, listening to the executive. The second part is diagnosis, where our belief is that the senior executives have huge blind spots as to what's actually going on with their team. So we either through an interview process or an AI-enabled anonymous surveying process, we ask 4 or 5 vital questions that do several things. Determine how aligned the team is. 2, get everyone's opinions on team practices, things that they should start doing that they aren't doing, things that they should stop doing that really get in the way, or things that they do but not enough of. Then we also, because having worked in offsites for years, and you probably know this yourself, that you bring people away from their office, many of them don't want to go on an offsite. They view it as a forced march or waste of time. I'm going to have to spend 2 weeks developing a PowerPoint presentation for my fellow leaders. And again, nothing's going to change. So we ask questions that are specifically designed to help them shape the agenda and view the investment of time as worthwhile. We ask, hey, what is the one topic that if it were on the agenda and we had a conversation that actually solved it or changed it, would make your entire 48-hour investment time worthwhile? We also ask, what's the elephant in the room? What is the topic that is always there that no one ever mentions, that we don't even believe we could address, but it would have, again, a hockey stick style impact on our performance. So listening to the executive, assessing the team, and then using that rather than the typical, let's create a content-based agenda and jam pack it. Let's create an agenda that, of course, covers the business objectives, but has built in opportunities to have those conversations that are needed and to develop the plan for acting differently. Now, so you could call that team building, but Team building is a trust fall. Team building is let's go cook a good meal together in one of those cooking classes, or let's go-kart racing. We don't do team building. We help a team get from where they currently are to where they need to be. And our specific focus is leadership. So, and then I guess that's all process. And then the part, as I said, that we're known for is we build our offsites and kick off our offsites with a full day of an experience that gets rid of titles, that puts everybody on a level playing field and takes everyone out of their comfort zone. Half of our programs are based on my favorite sport, which led me to start GEL, and that's sailboat racing. We'll get people who've never sailed out on multiple boats, teach them about how role clarity and communication and leadership are really what's required to get a boat to go in the direction you want it to go and go at the appropriate speed, what we're trying to do. And after folks learn that and rotate through all the roles, we put them into a challenge where our sailing coaches or captains on board the boat step back and let the team make all of the decisions except decisions that will cause injury to people or the boats. That program, we do it all over the country and down in the BVI. Really can do it anywhere. It is the highest impact nautical thing we do. The other half of our programs are based on the U.S. Army Ranger School, Leadership Development in the Army. I think it's a 63-day program. We do a version of it where the team is divided into small groups. They are paired with a Ranger instructor. All of my team are veterans with combat experience. Even some, one of our great guys participated in the Mogadishu a battle that the film Black Hawk Down is based on. We take our group through some training that requires someone to be the leader in the training, but everyone develops a skill. Then in the afternoon, we do a simulation. It might be a search and rescue simulation. It might be escape and evasion. My offsites often have actors who are the bad guys. We have done paintball as part of it, but haven't found that that's really as effective as something like search and rescue or escape and evasion. All of these programs, the sailing programs and the Ranger programs, have afternoon exercises which are iterative. That meaning the group does it, they do a debrief facilitated by Rangers, or in the sailing programs, myself and other of our nautical program facilitators, to help them understand what actually happened, what got in the way. We lead those conversations. And then in day 2, or actually at the end of the day, and in day 2 or day 3 of the offsite, we're actually applying those same debriefs and conversations throughout the offsite. Okay, how did we actually address this problem? What got in the way? How did John or Mary really step up to support us out there in the field with the Rangers? But in the product launch, what were the really key things that made us successful? What are the things that got in the way? This is the benefit of experiential. Gets people into a mindset where they can talk about things that need to be increased or improved and things that need to be removed. The combination of asking people what's important before an offsite and then giving them an experience during a high intensity, under pressure experience to show up for each other and to see how each other show up under pressure, which is when things are real. That's what will enable the group to do the follow through, which is the part that most CFOs think, my God, we spent $300,000 on that hotel and the flights and those outside speakers, and nothing has actually changed in the office. This is where the part of the offsite where you are planning and creating the systems and accountability for how are we actually going to implement those things that we all got so inspired about. That's where you actually have a return on investment. Long soliloquy, we do powerful things, and it's not just for a 3-day period of time.
Right. And you're stripping people of their titles during these experiences. What does that reveal about the leadership styles that don't show up in a conference room?
Taking the titles out of the equation is a part of the mindset change. Leadership is not, or I should say effective leadership is not top down. Like use the Rangers, for example. You've got that senior officer in the parachute jump, their parachute fails. Boom, leader is gone, right? Everyone on a Ranger squad, there's a great book, Team of Teams by General McChrystal, that talks about how special operators, how their programs, leadership is distributed. It needs to be. So taking the titles away will do several things. One, the senior executive step back and actually everyone gets opportunities to lead in it. We can actually, from there's so many benefits from a succession planning, or who should we rely on more, who has capabilities that we didn't know about, get everybody out of their functional role or title, and you are going to learn a lot more of what you actually have on your existing team. So it gives you opportunities to really enhance the overall team's performance. So that's why we put everybody on a level playing field. And often it's hard for both parties. I did an offsite for Northrop Grumman where the senior exec really found out that he has an issue stepping back. He thought his team weren't making decisions and they were kicking everything upstairs to him, and they needed to learn decision making. But in actuality, and this came through in our debrief, his key learning was, wow, I really need to let my group make decisions. Don't feel like there's a vacuum. Basically, let people make decisions, and the overall performance is going to be better.
Yeah. Jay, can you walk us through one of your favorite offsites that truly changed how leadership team work together?
Yeah, I would have to point to the program. Now, I'm mentioning big names, Northrop Grumman, this one's American Express, but we do programs for 50-person companies as well. This favorite one was for American Express Ventures. The American Express as a company has had at this time 2 venture arms, one in New York, one in Palo Alto. They decided that was not a good strategy, so they merged the 2 groups together, keeping the 2 distributed offices. We did a 3-day offsite for the senior exec of the newly merged group, where the goals were to develop an identity for this group, not as the New York office or the Palo Alto office, but as Amex Ventures. That required people to really get to know each other at a much deeper level, to get rid of the competitive view of each other, create a shared vision for their group, and and get the beginnings of a culture and behaviors. So 3 days started with our Boatworks program, a day of sailing, and then 2 days where the group did a number of exercises to establish deeper understanding of who they had on the team. Then together, what is our positioning going to be? What do we want American Express Ventures to be for the broader American Express organization? That's really who their customers are. Make investments in technologies that support the greater business. And then how are we going to do this? So while there was normal business type of sessions like what are our metrics, what are our targets, etc., the majority of this offsite was who are we going to be? How are we going to show up for our customers and for each other? With a number of different ways in which we did it. Experiential day one, and in the hotel conference rooms and over dinner. One of the things that we recommend anyone, small business, medium or large, when you're doing an offsite, don't pack the agenda. Allow time for people to interact with each other and to process and reflect on what did we just do in that last session? What did I learn about Mary? Let me grab Mary for a cocktail or sit at her table and really get to know her better, which is going to pay dividends when you're implementing that 30, 60, 90-day plan after you get back from the nice location with the sailboats.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I want you to be able to share your process for building and constructing an offsite. But before we get into that, what are some of the biggest reasons that offsites actually fail?
Simple. I mean, again, there is a long list, but the first reasons offsites fail. Number one, the focus of planning is on venue, agenda, and maybe an activity. There's not a focus on outcome. Number one. Number two is engagement. No, nothing is done in advance of an offsite to engage folks in the actual thinking about how do we work together. And there's nothing that's done to address the natural skepticism and negative perceptions of offsites that if you have a group of 12 people, I would say every time 3 of them don't want to be at that offsite. So again, agenda focus, venue focus, no engagement, a leader who phones it in. Often, and this is in the middle to large companies, you have someone who plans your offsite for you. It might be your HR business partner, your VP of HR, your chief people officer, who are all very skilled. But if you don't have a leader who's focused on the things that their HR partner is guiding them on, like, hey, you want to hit that number, you really need to get your team to be actually more of a high performance team than just people who report to you, who have silo perspectives on each other, etc. So those are three reasons things fail. And then I would say that the 2 others are there's no debriefing or conversations built into the offsite around how we work. Yeah, that's basically it. No debriefs. And then the most important piece that I mentioned, there's no plan for taking whatever inspiration or great conversations we had here under the palm trees or out horseback riding, whatever it might be, no plan to build some changes in behaviors or approaches or focus going forward.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that too. That's really important to look out for. Basically, installing some things before and after, not just relying on the offsite itself. Okay, so how would you normally structure? I know days, agenda, and all that's going to vary depending on how long the offsite is, how big it is. But what's the general framework that you're looking to follow when you are constructing an offsite for an organization?
Well, our process is listen, as I said, diagnose, then we design, and then we execute not our plan, not just for the 3 days, but for going forward. That's Gel's process for working with our clients. For your audience, I'd like to simplify that to things that anyone can do with their team. Number 1, as a leader, take an hour or 3 hours to really think about where's my team now? Where does my team need to be? Second, get the team engaged in that. The number 1 thing that I would, and if your audience takes one thing to do a survey, an anonymous survey. If you can, have your executive assistant do it or whatever. It's ask this question. What are our top 3 objectives for the next quarter? Many leaders assume and think that their group is aligned around those 3. I have never had a client where everyone knows the top 3 objectives. More usual is we'll get something over 10 or 15 top 3 objectives identified by a group of only 12 people. Boom. You do that one question, you'll know, what do we need to cover on the during our offsite? And you might learn that among those objectives that weren't yours as the senior leader, there's 2 or 3 which, wow, we really ought to focus on that. Maybe not to the level that they're become one of the top 3, but man, they should be 4 and 5. And you've built into your agenda. This is the second piece. Ask about alignment, get the data, but then build in time into your offsite to either brainstorm around additional objectives or first create the alignment around what they actually are. One of the ways you do this that's fun is after you've done that survey, put your top 3 objectives onto a deck of, you make your own deck of playing cards. With one client, we ended up with 18 cards. After they sailed, after they hiked up to the campsite on the top of Angel Island, which was a surprise to them, we handed everybody a deck of 18 cards. You hold in your hands your top 3 objectives based on your survey. Objective number 1, divide them into 3 piles. 1, now that you have all 18 and you know your CEOs are in there, what are really the top 3? And make another pile. These are the ones that you know aren't. They're not at all a top 3 objective. But then make a middle pile. These are ones that are really interesting that we should discuss during that 90 minutes that we've already built into the agenda to discuss new business or, brainstorming, or ideas. You don't need a consultant to do what I just described.
Powerful. Okay, I know we're just grazing the surface, but where can more people find out about what you do at Gelcore and what they can do to possibly learn a little bit more?
Great question. Well, so the first thing is Gelcorp is our URL. Group Experiential Learning owns GELCORP.com. You can learn a bit about us there. The name of the company actually isn't Gelcorp. I think they're a plastic manufacturer down in Florida. We're Group Experiential Learning, and the abbreviation GEL is what you want your team to do. You can find us through search, but the best way is to reach out to me via LinkedIn. You just search for Jay Palace on LinkedIn. Send me a connection request. I'm happy to help people. One of the things my team offers is a 45-minute, I don't want to call it a strategy call, but I would call it a team impact call. If you're planning an offsite or you've just had one, spend 45 with me or one of my people, and we'll help you assess either what you did or what you're planning on doing without any obligation to work with us. We're happy to establish a relationship that way.
Thanks for offering your time and your generosity to help people that are planning an offsite or even trying to extrapolate the gold from an offsite they just had. Jay, thanks so much for sharing. Thank you for your time. And if you like stories like this from other leaders like Jay who are driving the envelope for growth for organizations and teams, be sure to tune into the JumpifyLabs podcast for more. Thanks so much, Jay. Appreciate your time. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Jay.